Thank you for giving me time and for sharing my knowledge and experience on the Islamic scientific tradition. To brother and sisters and to all participants in the whole world, I think, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Um, Tonight, we'll start our lectures on Islamic scientific traditions, and it will have, I think, 7 meetings. Yes,
Yes.
7 meetings, and I already arranged and gave to Brother Sahran about the topics. So the first one will be the the sporting factors for the science development in Islamic world. And the second one about the educational institution. The third one is about educational system. And the fourth one, and so tonight we will have a topic about the sporting factors for the science development. But I'll start with the challenge of the Ummah, the problem that we have, especially in Indonesia and in the Malay world today. I describe Muslims in the Southeast Asia or Malay world as the sleeping giant. I wrote my book in the 2015, and the time we have a survey said that Indonesia is very low in the uh, in the world education. So I said in the time that Indonesia, and we can talk generally South Asia, as the most populous Muslim in the world. But in terms of scientific advancement and also the achievements, I think we left behind, far behind from those. For example, have Japan, who is not Muslim, and Korea, and so on, and even Singapore, and we are a lot far behind. Um, and so I described the Muslims in this part of the world as sleeping giant. Yes, uh, it's a great. We have a great number, like giant, but not in quality, not in the substance. So that's why uh, we we are left behind. And so I said to myself, what's going on? What is the cause? Why you are so big in number, but so little in achievement compared to other uh, countries? So I said that there is a correlation between the advancement of a nation and the advancement of knowledge. If you find a country is not have a progress in science, I mean, when you find backwardness in the country, it can also mean that we are not advanced also in science, in knowledge. So there's correlation, positive correlation between the advancement of a country and the advancement of knowledge. In the great country, the big country, the science always very advanced. They have a progression in many fields. Um, and I also look at it that advancement of knowledge also correlates with the appreciation of the community. When community does not appreciate science, so science will not develop. You know, that's why in our lecture we are going to talk about the supporting factors that make possible science development at that time in the Islamic world. So, what is the cause of the backwardness of our science today? Advancement. I said that it could not be Islam could not be the cause of the backwardness of knowledge. When some people said, Muslims especially, say that Islam does not compatible with science. So Islam was accused as the like obstacle for science development. I said no. Islam could not have been the cause for this backwardness. Why? Because in the past, we are the leader of scientific advancement in many fields, in science, in technology, in philosophy. When Europe at the time, the West at the time was the dark age. Okay, so if Islam was the cause of this backwardness, so there will be no Muslim anywhere, anytime that will have that progress in science, right? But the historical fact says that even for many centuries, maybe 4 to 5 centuries, Islam had been a leader in many disciplines, in many scientific disciplines, both religious and rational sciences. So, what is the cause? Why Muslim in the time has so advanced in science and technology, while Muslim now is left far behind? Why? This is what I'm looking for. When I wrote the book in, I think, 2015. And as usual, I wrote it by hand within 1 month, actually. So when I look at this and contemplate on that, I found out that Muslim now is not in the progressive phase because we don't have actually the well-established scientific tradition. While Muslim in the past, they had that. For centuries, they have been building the scientific tradition in many various fields. You can mention all these natural sciences, right? And mathematical, metaphysical, even religious, theology, philosophy, mysticism, all are very advanced. And really, we led the world at that time. Okay. Now, Western people got the substantive, progressive achievement in science. Why? Because they have established their own scientific tradition, right? They have that. Now we learn to the West. But we have not yet achieved the level. We are just in the middle way for that. While we also forget our scientific tradition, our Islamic scientific tradition. So we are actually in nowhere. We, we don't master Western scientific tradition, nor did we master Islamic scientific tradition. Okay, so now I found one of the major causes of this backwardness. That is the lack of well-established scientific tradition. Unfortunately, we Muslims who live in the modern age, we are more exposed to Western scientific tradition than to that of Muslim scientific tradition, right? For example, we know more about Western scientists rather than Muslim scientists, right? We know more Western philosophers, and we are so proud of mentioning their name and their theory, right? But do we know Abu Sulaiman al-Sijistani? So I feel constrained, and my moral responsibility. You told me to draw a book on Islamic tradition. Inshallah, in this consecutive sentences, not the whole thing, I mean the most essential parts of it. So all of us will know, what is actually uh, Islamic scientific tradition, and we should learn from them because we study them not just for the sake of study. No, we want to know what the key secrets of their success, and hoping that we can emulate and start our building up our scientific tradition, right? Okay, so then I found out the main problem of our society today, why we are backwards in knowledge, is because we don't have well-established scientific tradition. Actually, if we really ponder upon this, we are actually more fortunate than, for example, Al-Kindi in the time, right? Why? Because Al-Kindi, for example, I mean, he was exposed to Western, in this case, Greek tradition, but Islam has not yet established their own scientific tradition at that time. Now we are more fortunate actually than him. Why? Because actually we are exposed to modern scientific tradition, but we also still have our Islamic scientific tradition. If we are smart enough, then we can combine, synthesize, study both of tradition critically, right? And preserve what's good done by Muslims, and also take from the West, which is beneficial for us. The synthesis of these two great tradition, I think, will benefit us actually. But unfortunately, only few people, understand both of tradition. Most of us modern people are more exposed to Western tradition than Islamic tradition itself, right? Okay. Okay, now we move to uh, the second topic, which is the supporting factors for science development. Okay, So actually, in the whole lecture, uh, we want to mirror the past in order to seek this key secret of their success and how to emulate it. Okay, now we are talking about supporting factors for science development. Maybe one time, or certain day, we wonder how Muslim people at the time, Islamic world, could achieve that great achievement in science development, right? It cannot be just like that. It should be reason, should be factors that supported the evening. I mean, happening the event. So I tried to find out, to identify at least three factors that make it possible the development of scientific enterprises and development in Islamic world at that time, the classical, and we call the golden age of Islam. First, religious encouragement. I don't know another other religions, but when you look at Islam, Islam is very emphatic in urging his ummah, its ummah, to seek knowledge. There's no wonder why Prof. Datuk Osman Bakar uh, have written and said like this: Islam is actually the religion of knowledge. Why? Because Islam has emphasized, put emphasis on the necessity of seeking knowledge. If you look at the hadith, for example, this hadith by Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying that talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli muslimin wal muslimat. Okay, seeking knowledge is incumbent, wajib, fardu, for every Muslim, male and female. See, this is religious duty actually for us. But most of us don't take it seriously. Right? If you don't read, for example, one day, or write one day, or 2 days, or 3 days, you don't feel any guilty. You don't feel guilty. Okay, why? Because we don't take it seriously. That it is religious duty for us to seek knowledge, as the hadith said. Okay, I think Muslim scholars in those days, glorious time, the golden age of Islam, took this hadith seriously. So they're really eager to seek knowledge. And you can see from the rihla, from the journey, for meeting not only 100, but 1,000 teachers in long distance. Okay, compared to us, even when your teacher are just your neighbor, you barely visited him, right? What is the spirit? Go. Okay. Another hadith. اطلب العلم من المهد إلى اللهد. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Meaning that Islam have give us duty for seeking knowledge the whole span of life, the whole entire life. Meaning this is long life education. Whether you get PhD or you're a professor or not, doesn't mean that you are not obliged anymore, for seeking knowledge. Seeking knowledge is fardu for Muslim. Okay. So in terms of time, there's no limit. Our duty for seeking knowledge is entire life. Selama hayat di kandung badan. You will not exempted from seeking knowledge. Okay? And then in terms of space, seek knowledge even when it is in the China. You can imagine, during the lifetime of the Prophet, China was not a Muslim country, right? Of course not. But look at the spirit. Seeking knowledge is boundless in space and time. You can seek knowledge everywhere. But sometimes our mind is so narrow-minded. So when my friends and I was sent to America, many ulama was protested against it. Why you sent people to America? America is not Muslim countries. Why not, send to Middle East? It's already done. Look at the spirit of Prophet. And the time he said, go, even when it is in China. As long as the knowledge is a beneficial. Because China, of course, in the time, one of the most advanced in science and civilization. They have a great civilization. But I guess that China is not really China. This is meaning it's the end of the world, actually. So you can seek knowledge everywhere in this world, right? So seeking the obligation of seeking knowledge is boundless in time and also in space. And when you take it seriously, you will see the results. The million of books were being, written by Muslim scholars in many different fields. Okay, so that is from Hadith. And what is the support from the Quran? Okay, you can find many Quranic verses actually that really encourage us to seek knowledge. One of them is أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم والذين أوتوا العلم درجات. God promised to lead those who believe and were given knowledge certain darajats, certain degrees. So meaning that if you have knowledge, you are upgraded. You are considered as the noble and highly respected by Quran. And in other verses, that Allah asks us, هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? Do you think it is the same? People, those who know and those who don't know. No, it's like, between the blind and the one who can see. هل يستوي الأعمى والبصير? Is it the same people who blind people and those who can see? Of course not. So people with no knowledge is like blind one. You cannot see things clearly. So that's why ilmu is a very, very important. Ilmu is, I think, the torch of life. To shed light on the darkness of your life. So that's why one day a prophet was being asked how to live a heavy life in this world. Prophet said, through knowledge. How to be happy in the hereafter by knowledge. How to be happy in this world and in the hereafter, then through knowledge. So that is why knowledge is very important, and Muslim in that time, in the past, the golden age, took it really seriously, both for, pragmatic purpose, but also for religious purpose, as uh, the complement for the religious duty. Okay, so for example, when you left prayer, you may feel guilty, right? But if you don't read or write or do research, do we feel guilty? For example, for one day or 2 days, we didn't feel that it is necessary for us to seek knowledge in that manner. That is why we are backward now compared to Muslim, because as we will see later in maybe I think the fourth lecture of us, I will discuss about how diligent and how creative and how active, productive Muslim scholars were. For example, Muhammad Jabir at-Tabari was reported to have written 40 pages a day for 40 years. That's a lot, How many pages that we write every day? Okay, because they feel that this is the obligation. This is a fardu, a religious duty for us to seek knowledge. So take it seriously, inshallah will be something. Okay, now we come to the second factor that may be responsible for the science development at the time. That is the appreciation of the community for knowledge, toward knowledge. And you can see it, for example, in the number of libraries that we have at the time when Islam is in the golden age of science. Toby Huff, in his book, The Rise of Early Modern, the availability of books in Muslim world and Vatican, the West, and China. He said that, in Islam at the time, there are so many madrasa, so many colleges, and every college has their own collection, which is not little. It's 100,000 or something like that. If you consider there is 1,000 madrasa, and each has its own library, how many books that they collect? Even I think Adu Dawla, Wahid leader in Baghdad at the time, he built an underground library that has about 360 chambers. If you just consider one chamber 1,000 books, how many books that it collects? Is 360,000 books in one, many stories, but one library in Baghdad at the time. He ordered the people bring books for the entire areas at the time, and so many camels, 100 camels bring the books to provide the library. And the library is such a wonderful, so it's described as the, it was designed in heaven. And as I tell you about this, they have a very very large dome in which many great scholars was being funded to do research, and they are provided with lamps, and oil, so they continue reading during the night. So compared to the West, Vatican at the time only have they had only 3,000 books. And in China, I said that after collecting so many dynasty, the collection of so many dynasty, about 10,000. While in the Bait al-Hikmah itself, already it had already 400,000 books. And in Darul Hikmah in Egypt, there's about 1,200,000 books. Just consider only in two libraries, we have already 2 million something, compared to the West. That this is because they appreciate knowledge, right? If they don't love knowledge, how can they have so many, libraries? Not only in the madrasa, but also in palace, in the mosque, they provide very great library. Okay. And the second one, they also have the society and also the ruler as a very great appreciation toward the men of knowledge, the ulama. I still remember when I read that when Fahruddin Ar-Razi, of course, the great Muslim theologian, was invited by Amir in Kandahar. I think Kandahar is about, I think in Afghanistan, something like, to deliver a lecture. The ruler at the time built a very nice, like, palace, for him to give the lecture. And all the dignitary was invited and greet him. And also the people in the time, the book said, they are very happy. They celebrated like they celebrated Idul Fitri or Adha, just to greet a wonderful, great scholars like that. And we don't see the whole my life. I don't see that kind of appreciation, ever saw here, Yes, if you are talking about celebrity, most movie star or something like that, they'll be great. But ulama, not scientist, not even philosopher, But in the time, being philosopher was so greatly appreciated, Okay, and also the ruler in the time, the Amir, was given him a madrasa for him to teach. So this is the kind of appreciation that the society in the time had for a good great scholars like Fahruddin Ar-Razi. And of course, Fahruddin Ar-Razi is not, not small, insignificant ulama. No, he's great. I mean, as a theologian, he also wrote many philosophical works. He also wrote a Sarah on Ibn Sina, al-Isharat on Tatmihat. And I saw him that he wrote so many books in many fields, in science, in mathematics, in metaphysics, in logic. Even he wrote about psychology and so on. So that is why people are spirited in pursuing knowledge and to be great scholars, right? Because people appreciate it. Okay, and also, not only a ruler but also wealthy people. They fond of science, and they actually what's called promote and also sponsor the activity of translation. For example, Baitul Hikmah. Baitul Hikmah is actually the translation not only, I mean, library, but it's also translation institution in which, Khalifa al-Ma'mun was organized uh, systematically as to what kind of book that should be translated, and the appreciation towards the translator. Wow, if you have the translation books, weighted, for example, for 2 kilograms, they will give they will be given 2 kilograms gold. You know, can you imagine how many dollars now? 2 kilograms for 2 kilos of work of translation. That's why so many people want to translate, and because of that, they selected. They are selected very, very. I mean, strictly, so they get the very best translated that time. So the appreciation of society and also ruler toward knowledge, and also scientific activities, and also the demand of knowledge was so great. And that's why people are so spirit. They have a very great, spirit for seeking knowledge. Okay. Now the third one is the royal and governmental patronage, and this is the last factors. You know, and that in those days, a king or the Khalifa or the Amir will not feel happy if they don't have uh, great scholars. That's why, for example, Al-Ma'mun al-Mutawakkil, I think, he invited Al-Kindi to his palace to works, scientific works, to do scientific works. And Al-Kindi was given a huge library by Al-Mutawakkil, and called Al-Kindiya, the Kindian library. And for the result is amazing. He wrote about 270 books, as reported by George Atiye. 270 books, is a lot, and covered the whole thing, the whole range only was known in the time, from logics to natural sciences to mathematical sciences to metaphysical sciences, and also, that Ibn Rus also was invited by Muwahhidun, the ruler at the time, to commit to write commentary on Aristotle. So he was well known in the West as the commentator of Aristotle. And this is because the ruler himself was really interested in philosophy. And when Ibn Rus asked by by Ibn Tufail, the author of Ibn Yatzon, that the king asked you to write commentary on Aristotle, Ibn Rus did not reply right away because he didn't know whether this is a trick, or whether the ruler had a genuine interest in philosophy. But when he was convinced by Ibn Tufel that the king really had the genuine interest in philosophy, and he got the difficulty in understanding the books, then he committed himself to write some not some, many, many commentary on Aristotle works. It's not only one kind of commentary, but three kind of commentary. So the short one, the middle one, and the long one, the tafsir. So, for example, metaphysics was commented in three types, you know. And this is because the ruler at that time really appreciate great scholars like Ibn Rus, and even Ibn Sina also was invited by Alauddawla or something like that. And of course Al-Farabi also by Samsudawla or something like that. Okay, so this is the appreciation of the royal and who gave the patronage to great scholars like Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, Ibn Rus, and something like that. Okay, and also the second one, and there are three. The second one is establishment of scientific academy and or college or madrasa. You know, as we continue, next week's about the educational institution, we are talking about madrasa, about the also academy. But I just want to show you how the patronage will work. Harun al-Rashid, at the time, the Abbasid Caliph was had initiative to establish Baitul Hikmah. So he built Baitul Hikmah, but it greatly developed by his son Al-Ma'mun, who collects so many, manuscripts from different parts of the world. It was said that it was housing 400,000 books, and Al-Ma'mun himself selected which one should be translated into Arabic, sometimes from Greek, sometimes from Syriac or Syrianic, And so the ruler himself has great interest in these scientific activities and, liberally, donates funds. And, and this is why science was developed in the time. If our government, or in this case, presidents or ministers, education, donates this scientific institution liberally. So I will say that science will develop, but nowadays it's very difficult to get fund. For example, I established a CIFSI, Center for Islamic Philosophical Studies and Information, and it's very difficult for us to get fund because people it's easily to give us money for building musalla or orphanage house, then to translate the books, because our center was directed into translating the Arabic books into Bahasa. It's very difficult. We experience difficulty of that. Of course, it should be done by governments actually. Whether it is governor or maybe minister or something like that. Why? Because this is the reason. This is the secret why Islam or Islamic science was developed in Islamic world, because the generosity of the interest of the ruler at that time. Okay, and colleges, madrasa was also funded by endowment, I think, Waqf institution at that time, because madrasa was concentrated on religious sciences actually. The most well-known madrasa, of course, Al-Azhar, which is the oldest, I think, built in 9th century. But the more famous is the Nizamiya madrasa, built by Nizam al-Mulk. In many places, Nizamiya madrasa was like system, like in California, University of California at Davis, at Berkeley, and something like that. So Nizamiya madrasa was established in many places. For example, Al-Ghazali, first you entered the Nizamiya college in Tus, Masad, and then went to, I think, Isfahan. And then finally he became the head of madrasa in Baghdad. And of course, this is sponsored by prime minister in the time. Okay, and also another one called Al Mustansiri. Al Mustansir is the second last uh, second last caliph of Abbasid. That he established a very good, very big madrasa Mustansiriya, which still exists until now, actually. And the different being that in the Nizamiya madrasa, only one mazhab in fiqh was being taught. This is Shafi'iyya or Hanafi, one of. But at Mustansiriya, um, four of mazahib was being introduced. And the Khalifa was specify a certain, appointed certain professor for certain mazahib. And the Caliph, as the uh, founder of the madrasa, visited every day to the madrasa, and he even built the towers from where he can see the activity of teaching and learning. So this is the dedication of the ruler for sponsoring and you know uh, patronage the scientific activities and institution, as we'll develop. We'll discuss more next week. Okay, and the last one is about scholarship and great fund for scholars. When Al-Ma'mun realized that it is necessary for us to study rational sciences from abroad, so he sent many to Greeks for searching for manuscripts. And of course, he paid a lot of money for that, And after that, get the manuscript, they asked them to translate. And you can see, I told you already how they pay the translator. And one of the great translator was the Nestorian Christian Hunan bin Ishaq. So at the time, Christian, Jews, and Muslim worked together for building up a great Islamic civilization. They respect each other. And Hunan bin Ishaq, of course, contributed so many because he understand very well Greek and Syriac, and being Arab, so he translated into Arab so many books in philosophy, in medicine, in science, in mathematics and so on. And the way he translated was wonderful. He reported to us that he already 3 times edited his own translation that he was done during his lifetime, 3 times, just to make sure that the translation was very accurate. Okay. And also fun for scholars, when Al-Ghazali went to Isfahan or something, yeah. He was got scholarship actually. So he went from Tus to that place and met, of course, Imam Haramain in that time. And so the ruler and the leader in that time was very generous, for giving the students fund. And of course, as I mentioned, other Dawla also give money to those who want to do research in his library. So this is, I think, learning from that. You can learn from this, that the supporting factors that make possible the science development in Islam is three: religious encouragement, the appreciation of the society toward knowledge and men of knowledge, and also royal patronage, in which uh, Khalifa or king was have a genuine interest in developing science, and also liberally gave the funds, great fund for the development of science. So I will stop in here. I hope that will give you some benefit information. So if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask to us. Thank you very much. Kurang lebihnya saya mohon maaf. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Thank you so much, Prof. Somehow our chat doesn't work tonight, but our time almost done also. Prof, I read that the Mongol invasion and destroy of Darul Hikmah is not really of course it is real, but there are other libraries, the part of Muslim world who survive, not affected by the Mongol invasion. And then others are also saying that translation work did not stop after the Mongol, it continues. What is your response on that?
Yeah, we used to hear that Mongol destroy everything, destroy books, kill people, and so on, like that. But in reality, it's not like that. And of course, there are many books was burned or something like that. But they are smart. They love knowledge, actually. We are barely informed where Hulagu Khan, after he sacked Baghdad, where he went. Do you know? Most of the don't know. I think maybe he disappeared, something like that. No, actually he established called Ilkhaniya dynasty.
Oh yeah.
And only 1 year after he sacked Baghdad, he established Maraga as the capital city of Ilkhan dynasty. And he actually asked Nasiruddin Tusi to be the director of the observatory in Maraga and established a scientific center housing 400,000 books, and invite 38 great scholars in different fields. So that's why actually that's why astronomy was very developed in the time, because one of the disciples of Nasiruddin Tusi, Qutbuddin Siraj, he continued his writing on many fields, especially astronomy and also medicine. So 38 scholars work together in make a progress in the science. So it's not true that they all destroy all the library. No, they selected certain books and houses 400,000 books in science and astronomy and so on. And what the aftermath of that? One of the grandchildren was Timur Lang. He converted to Islam, right? And one of the grandsons of the Timur Lang was Babur, who established the Mughal Empire in India. Hulagu Khan himself was asked to convert it to Christianity, but he didn't. He's still Buddhist. Okay, but the progeny of him, became Muslim and become the great leaders after the sack of Baghdad. We have the establishment of Mughal until until 18th century, right? And also Usmani, actually also from that kind of Turkman, yeah. So and also Safawi, somewhat related to Mughal also. So we have to rewrite or straighten our history actually, because also people say that after the sack of Baghdad and the criticism by Al-Ghazali, science was not developed. No, it's not. It's not true. How can you build Taj Mahal, in 15th in 16th or 17th century without knowing, geometry or it's impossible, right? And then there's a study on that actually about the scientific development and books that written in the Mughal period, Mughal Empire at that time. So it's not true that science was collapsed after the Baghdad sects and also after Ghazali and Fahruddin Ar-Razi criticized philosophy. So you have to read again, Of course, science also still develops in Usmani time. There's Ulugh Beg. Ulugh Beg was I think, Amir in Samarkand, and he built a great observatory, Ulugh Beg observatory. And of course, there are so many astronomers in the time, Kusi al-Kusji, but we never heard that, because we stopped learning, And of course, many, I think hundreds of observatory was built afterwards. Okay.
Thank you so much, Prof. We look forward for next week's lecture, Prof. Or do you want to give us a preview of next week's, Prof?
Yeah, that'll be about the educational institution. I will talk more about madrasa and also about academy, like Baitul Hikmah, Darul Hikmah, and Talaza, something, right? And also about the hospitals, wherein there's medical schools, and in which people study medicine and so on. And also library and observatory and Zawiya. Zawiya was like Sufi Haneqa. Like replacing madrasa at the time that was closed down after the Mongol invasion. So Zawiya took over the role of education, replacing madrasa at the time. Inshallah, I will give the some elaboration on that, and I hope that in the end we know better about Islamic scientific tradition, and we can compare to that of Western one.
Thank you so much, Prof. See you next week, inshallah. We have after this Prof. Roslani, so